My name is Terry Duenas, and you're watching Cape Works. This is a program dedicated to the business of business and on Cape Cod, and we certainly know that the Cape is a wonderful place to live, work, and play, and we're here today with the chef and owner of a fabulous restaurant here in Duenas, Dan Rosenbach, and we're going to talk about the ups and downs of owning a family business and a family restaurant. Welcome, Dan. It's great to have you here to talk about an industry on Cape Cod that is probably the biggest industry that we have.
I would think so.
Aggregately, if you take all the, and certainly the one that everybody looks and says, "Oh, I'd love to own a restaurant. It's wonderful," and I'm sure you can attest that it is wonderful.
It is wonderful, absolutely. You know, you have to be that type of person that loves it.
Beautiful.
And I'm lucky to be one of those people, but I've worked with people that don't. It's just a job to them, and so it is work. And I guess like anything, if you love what you do, it never really seems like work.
Absolutely.
And so I have a lot of people ask me how are you able to put in so many hours, and it is because I don't find it to be work. Well, it's a lot of fun.
I think that's a great attitude to have, no matter what the business is.
Yeah.
And we know that the fascination with restaurants and with restaurateurs and owning a restaurant on Cape Cod, especially one as unique as the Red Cottage. It's been in existence for a number of years. How many years have you been around?
Well, since 1951, so it's
great.
In its 62nd year, 63rd.
Actually,
yeah.
But that's wonderful. And that's as long as I've been around. It's fabulous. And the Red Cottage, if those of you who have never had the experience of going to the Red Cottage, it's just a wonderful. And it's predominantly a breakfast restaurant, although you've expanded out now to lunch and dinner?
Yes. Well, we've always done lunch, so we've always done breakfast and lunch. But we became known for our breakfast. We started, my parents bought the restaurant in 1981, and I was still in high school, and I ended up, I was going to be an airline pilot, all set to go, and
Great.
By the time I was a senior in high school, I kind of liked doing this cooking thing. So I ended up going to Johnson & Wales, figuring that if I didn't like it, it was only a 2-year program, I'll move on.
Great.
And then I can go and be an airline pilot. Well, I ended up loving it. And so I worked at the Breakers Hotel in Palm Beach, Florida. I worked there for about a year, and that was quite an experience, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do after that. I did tableside cooking, and the catch with that is it's you're right at the table with the customers, so there's interaction.
Sure.
In a regular kitchen setting, there's no interaction with cooks, but at the Red Cottage, you're right out front, so there is that interaction that I was looking for. So when my parents in '86, there was a cook there. She wanted to leave, and they gave me a call down in Florida and said, "Susan is leaving. Would you consider working here full time?"
Excellent.
And so I stuck with it. So from then on, from 1987, I think it was 1987 on, I was their full-time cook, doing this 6 and 7 days a week and enjoying myself. But that we were doing breakfast and lunch at that time. It just happened to be that breakfast really took off, and at that time there was groceries in the restaurant, and we phased those out over the years, and I think by the time probably '86, by the time I was there full time, I don't think we really had any groceries
That
left.
was kind of a common thing. Little New England stores with a little grocery store thing in it, and maybe a breakfast counter, and doing that. So it certainly is something that had its roots in New England. It could be very folksy, and
it was. I've got the pictures to show it. It was very folksy.
That's wonderful. Well, I know the one thing about your business is that you have just a tremendous amount of regulars
Yes.
that come in. I know our lovely receptionist, Helen Goes, is a part of the Red Cottage family, and it's just part of her routine.
It's part of the daily routine.
And she loves it. And I think that overall philosophy of building core business is so strong, whether it be a restaurant, a grocery store, a retail store, or any type of business. It makes perfect sense to have that core business. And you seem to have that.
I think for us, we realized early on that when they feel special coming in, they'll come back.
Wonderful.
And it's that recognition in the restaurant. And I feel the same way when I go out. When
Sure.
I know the owners and I don't get to see them, or it's almost disappointing. So I know that when people come in the Red Cottage, they want to get, they at least want to get a little wave from me or a little quick nod, even if I'm busy, just to know that I know they're there.
Wonderful.
And it is everything. And so the food is great, but that's really not the point. It is, but it isn't. You can have mediocre food. People will still come in if they feel like they're special. Oh, I know the owner, or or the
Absolutely.
waitress. I know this waitress or that waitress. That's the way it is. It's more of the connection than anything else. But again, I'm hoping that the food is the draw.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But if it isn't, I'm okay with that.
Well, I think that. So, and a lot of what we try to do on this show is get to the core of what to look at successful business owners and successful businesses and say what's the core, not only the core mission, but the core business philosophy. And it sounds like that personal touch, even though it's a restaurant, you wouldn't think that, wow, well, that's important to have that personal touch.
Yeah.
In your business, very important to have
Very
that.
important. And most of our regulars have their own mugs.
Great.
So when you if as a non-regular, you would just come in, we have a mix of mugs. So there's no set Red Cottage mug.
Right.
Most of our regulars have brought in mugs that they don't use anymore, and that's where we accumulated so many
Excellent.
mugs. But then for regulars, each of them have their own mug, and some of them have brought in their own, or the staff have bought them a mug specifically for them.
That's amazing.
So
Now that's
that's
a
little
real
nice little-
personal
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
That works well. So you certainly adhere to the philosophy of personal interaction is
Yes.
a key to doing
Yeah,
business.
absolutely.
And one of the things that in kind of looking at what you do, your marketing concept is, I think, excellent. And you would think, as a successful business person in indie business on the Cape, they would get a little bit complacent if you have. I think your problem sometimes is parking.
It is. You can't get complacent. That's the key. You never are as good as you think you are, or you're never as good as the headlines, or however that
Great,
works.
yeah.
And that is true. We always give out little. Part of our marketing is giving out little sheets, and they evaluate us.
Excellent.
And most of the regulars, of course, they hate that because they're there and they love it. But we want to hear from everyone.
Sure.
And it's nice to hear the nice stuff, but we want to hear where we've gone wrong and how we can fix those things. And that's really, really important. That's
Boy, that
the
customer
key.
feedback is
absolutely.
right
And a lot of
there.
times they don't want to say anything because they like everything. So it's a little bit better to just kind of scribble it down.
Yeah.
And then give it to somebody. And they feel, you know what I mean? They feel like they've been heard, and yet they haven't hurt anybody's feelings.
Well, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So you kind of do an informal tracking of customer response.
Yes.
Which is a great way to do it,
Yeah.
because you're right there one-to-one.
Yep.
I notice in your marketing and some of your marketing tools, this is, you have, and this is new this year, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And as we talked about before the show, if there's a good idea, well, let's borrow liberally from those good ideas. And you found this in Sedona, Arizona.
Arizona. It was a restaurant called the Coffee Cup, and I went and sat down at the table, and they had their newspaper there. I forgot what it was called, the Coffee Cup Gazette.
Right.
And you open it up, and it's got their menu in it, but it also had all sorts of information about not only the restaurant, but the town, what to do, where to go, everything. And I'm looking at this, oh my God, it's genius. It's absolute genius. Because as somebody who had never been there before, that was just perfect.
Sure.
That was just perfect. That's exactly what a tourist needs. And so as soon as I got back, I put that together. I said, we've got to get something together. And so, yeah, a lot of hours went into that to try to get it just right. The only thing I couldn't do is the menu itself, because we had already printed the menus. But other than that, I think it's all set. We'll change some things as we go.
Absolutely.
Maybe do it seasonally. Instead of just once a year, maybe we'll do it a couple times, or maybe even every quarter.
Well, it's a wonderful, and I looked through it, and it's got some great stuff.
Yeah.
And if I were coming in, and I know going into a new town, you don't know what's going on, and you look and you pick up this stuff, this would help you kind of understand, and you have some of your marketing things here with your mugs, and so that's another thing that, to me, more businesses, especially, I mean, when we're talking about the restaurants, I should have done my homework and found out what percentage of the Cape Cod economy is driven by restaurants. It's got to be huge.
I'm sure it is.
We know because the number of the competition that you have, the competition for not only breakfast and lunch, but for dinner. And I think the philosophy of saying, hey, this is something we do well. We do breakfast and lunch well. You do lunch now, correct?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
So the breakfast and lunch combination is so great, because that is just an ongoing thing. And folks that come, and folks that are year-rounders want to have breakfast and go to the spot that's good. And so you've printed this out, but it's a great tool for the tourists who come in to find out what's going on, to kind of immediately feel like part of the family.
Right.
And I know that it's a family-run operation, of course, but your customers feel like family.
Yes.
And I think that this is something that, to take that part of your business philosophy and move it over into any business on the Cape, whether it's tourist-driven, year-round driven, that certainly is a key to making it work.
Yeah.
You have to have people who are engaged in your restaurant or in your business. What else makes the Red Cottage unique?
That's a good question. I think for us, because we're right in the South Dennis historic,
Right.
We tend to make sure that we try to keep the area as nice as possible. So we try to do stuff for like the Old South Dennis Village Association and do fundraisers and events for them.
Great.
Same with even DY. We'll do their scholarship fund, and we'll have dinners for them. Those things, and the Dennis Historic, we did a stew and brew, which was a lot of fun. And we had Cape Cod Brewery come down, and they did they had their beer, and then we did our beef stew, and that was a terrific thing. Those things keep everyone, because there's so much going on with the internet, and there's just a million things going on, and I think those are the things that just kind of bring it all home and center people. I guess that's a good way to do it.
That's absolutely a great way to think about your business and what's going to make a sustainable business. I think the sustainability of a restaurant on Cape Cod is probably one of the most difficult things to do, because restaurants have restaurants have
Oh,
cyclical
yeah.
shelf life.
When I was in culinary school, the statistics were that 80% of restaurants, I'm sorry, maybe it was 95%, 80% of restaurants fail within the first year.
Absolutely.
And then over the next 5 years, something that whatever was left over, 95% would fail, or something like that. I mean, it was a huge, huge number. And boy, you know, if you make it through those first 5 years, you're
doing
okay.
well.
You're doing well.
Absolutely. And I think so many people go into the restaurant business with this, you know, kind of unrealistic attitude that it's exciting and it's wonderful and I can just be the owner of the restaurant and walk around and shake people's hands. I think the owners that walk around and shake people's hands probably don't sustain as well.
Right.
They don't realize the work that's involved, and especially in a type of family, personal one-to-one restaurant that you seem to have developed.
Yeah.
With the restaurant business in mind, what do you see out there that Cape Cod does not have in a business sense as far as food service, food delivery? What would be successful? Not that you were going to start another business.
No, you know what I think is missing is I'll go to different areas of the country during the off season, and I travel and I see things. I don't think that Cape Cod works together as much as they could. When I went to Sedona, Arizona, or if you go to Las Vegas or other parts of the country, they know that it's tourists.
Sure.
That's what the draw is. And so if they all work together and get maybe one map and one, you know what I mean, instead of having a million of all sorts of different things, and work together and know that if you don't like my breakfast restaurant, there's the breakfast room right up the road and they're terrific and you might enjoy them. There's enough business for everybody. It doesn't seem to me, and it's just me, that we're working together enough to get it together. So
you know what, that's such a valid observation because of the fact that we see it happening, the regionalization. A lot of folks are talking about the idea to regionalize Cape Cod and do a lot of services that would bring tourism. The Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, of course, the Duenas Chamber of Commerce does a great job and does a number of things. But the idea that they group together and make sure that they lift us up as a tourist destination, what just seems to make more sense. But everybody's worried about their own little fiefdom and their own, and if I'm promoting, if I even talk about, God forbid, hearth and kettle,
Right,
that's gonna knock your restaurant down.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you said, there's enough for
everybody, and different restaurants appeal to different people, and it's the same with, I'm sure, other businesses, but especially restaurants. You know, there are restaurants where they're so popular, and I'll go, and I'm disappointed every time, and so, you know, after about 4 or 5 times, you think, okay, I must be missing something, and a lot of it is just whatever is appealing to that certain group of people, and they're all going to that restaurant. And I'm sure it's the same with Red Cottage. I'm sure that people that come in maybe prefer another place, and they'll maybe try us a couple times and leave saying, no, I don't know what the big deal is. And, you know, that's just the way it is.
Sure.
But that's why I don't worry about, you know, are we doing that well this year or whatever. I know that the core is still there, and we'll always get new people because new people will try it. They'll try some of our new stuff. They'll try some of our old classic stuff.
Great.
And they'll think it's wonderful. And those are the people that they get.
Business community is fickle, and they're going to move around, and it's much harder to keep a customer for a long term than it is, you know, because, I mean, the littlest thing can turn a customer off, and you may never hear that as the business owner. And that doesn't, that's not only just in the restaurant business, but I'm sure in any industry to retain your customer base. And I think for years you've always had the reputation to be able to do that. If you could take the Red Cottage to the next level, what would you do? What would you bring in to do, or how would you do it? And I realize you said to the next level. You go, well, I don't want to go to the next level. But is there something that you could see differently?
I think the fact that we're doing dinners now, and that has a lot to do with the talent that I have. The staff I have the last few years has just been building better and better and better. And so the menu, the breakfast menu and the lunch menu have expanded. And then we moved into dinners, just because there's so many talented people. I've got many wait staff leaders, and you need those, and you also need the followers. So I mean, you just need a nice blend of things. Same with cooks and chefs. You need good leaders, and then you need good followers. And if you have too many leaders, you get some clashing.
Sure.
So over the last several years, it's just been building, and we have the perfect mix. Who knows? Over the next sum of years, you know, some may leave and move on and go to other places, and you may end up with more marginal people.
Right.
And you can still work with that. You just have to maybe shrink the menu a little bit. Maybe not do this, maybe not do that. Most of our stuff is homemade from scratch. And you may just have to cut those out of the menu because you don't have the quality of staff that can handle that.
Sure.
And then, you know, 3 or 4 years from then, you may have that staff again.
Great.
So I don't know if there's a next level. I've been approached to make a chain out of it, and I'm not interested in that. It is what it is. I don't think that I want to do anything, because you spoil it. You spoil it. You know, I mean,
Sure,
there was
absolutely.
there was an original 99 and an original Applebee's, and you know, you make a chain out of them, and that's great, and everyone's made tremendous amount of money, but that's not always the goal.
Absolutely.
You know, Red Cottage is a little gem, and we want to keep it that way, and that is it.
The quality of life sometimes for the folks who own the business is something that you fail to realize, to hold on to. So that's great. Of your workforce, I mean, it used to be a traditional restaurant like yours would be open from Memorial Day to maybe Columbus Day, you know, and would be seasonal and would close for the winter. You're open year round.
Yes, and that's because we have that customer base that will visit us year round. But it's also because we have staff that need work year round.
That's what I was kind of getting to. At least you have your year round staff.
Exactly, and you know, making money is terrific, but there's also a bigger picture.
Sure.
And that is that you have a staff of 30 or so, and that's about what I have. And not every, you know, most of them are seasonal, but then you have a good chunk of them that aren't. And you want to give them the hours that they need.
Absolutely.
Because they all have families. So you have to work and kind of manipulate the schedule. And so you want to stay open year round. We close on Christmas Day only. And that way everybody can kind of work and get some hours and still continue and stay employed. And that's really the best way to do it, because then the next season comes around and you're not searching for the staff.
That's one problem of seasonal restaurants every year, is that you have almost a full turnover of staff.
Yeah.
And I imagine you have a combination of year-round staff, and you supplement it with maybe college kids who are coming in and helping out and doing that, or that come back year after year.
Yes.
I always think of Four Seas Ice Cream and some of the ice cream places that have kids that come back year after year after year, and then, you know, then their kids work there too at some point. And you probably have those same types of stories.
Right.
But I think that these types of restaurants have been the lifeblood of Cape Cod and the lifeblood of Cape Cod economy. Yeah. And so I think that it's important for you to be that kind of year-round, and you are, you know, you're somewhat legendary in Duenas, certainly, and beyond too. I know that that's important. Aside from the one-on-one service, the commitment that you have to the quality that you have, obviously the commitment that you have to marketing, you feel that the marketing is important, and you're not going to sit back and say, I don't need to spend this money on doing, and the work, not only the money, but the work that's involved in putting together a newsletter like this or a paper like this. You're committed to the marketing and the promotion. What else do you think contributes to your commitment and will continue to play long term?
Well, I think the marketing part of it, we don't do a lot of advertising in any of the magazines, and we try to stay as local as possible.
Great.
So, you know, you do the baseball leagues and things like that.
Beautiful.
But a lot of it, what we've realized is the people that like Red Cottage love Red Cottage.
Yes.
And so
they do.
They will come back. So if you give them a 20% off coupon for lunch, and that's one of our promotions, and that's how we keep things flowing, they will be back. And if you tell them about dinners, they'll come to dinner.
Excellent.
And even if we try to advertise, and we've tried to advertise outside of the restaurant, and it does okay, but it's not worth anybody's time or effort, quite frankly. The people that like Red Cottage love Red Cottage.
Well, I think that you have again hit on another key thing. You contribute to the community, and as a contributing part of the community, it continues to roll back on itself. The community supports you, and I think too many restaurateurs, too many business people, I shouldn't just comment that it's restaurateurs, will say, well, it's all word of mouth. Well, it is word of mouth, there's no question, but it's a situation that if you make yourself part of the fabric of the community will support you. And I think that the year-round community supports you. I think the tourist community finds you possibly because of the year-round folks.
Right.
I says, hey, where should I go to? The guy's working at the
and that's exactly what I do
store.
when I go out.
Beautiful.
Yep.
I said, where should I go?
Where should I go? What's the local place?
That's exactly. That's exactly.
That's where you want to go.
And as that, with that philosophy in the restaurant business on the Cape, it will sustain us for the long term, because it is, as we mentioned several times in this thing, it is the sustainable part of economic development on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
We do need to look, and I think that I would also like to see us support our businesses better, inform people where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah.
And Dan, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy morning to come and talk about the restaurant business, to talk about the Red Cottage. And although we're non-commercial, I would be remiss if I didn't say visit the Red Cottage in the historical district in Duenas, in South Duenas, and it's a wonderful restaurant. And I don't do that on a commercial basis. I do that because it supports the community. It supports business, and you should be commended for that.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for coming to visit us. Go see Dan, go see the staff at the Red Cottage. You will not be disappointed. And support Cape Cod business, support the economy, support local. I think that's the way we're going to sustain.
Yep, it is.
Thank you again, Dan,
Thank
for
you.
seeing us. And join us again on Cape Works.